Traditional effects relied on theatrical conventions, including a certain distance between the magician and the audience. Traditional magicians, accordingly, developed a repertoire of grand, if often stagey, gestures. Not Slidini. His magic invited close inspection. It never sought to evade reality, but to embrace it. Nor did he create about himself a phony aura of wizardly remoteness from his audience. Instead, he welcomed them, inviting them to move in closer and closer. He eschewed rigidly set programs in which the scale of effects typically rises in a crescendo of "you ain't seen nothing yet" showmanship. Instead, he engaged with his audience, apparently following their lead while directing them to inspire the direction of his show. All the while, Slidini was very quietly, very much in charge. Within the intimate sphere of the reality he shared with his audience, coins appeared and disappeared. Paper balls floated over the head of an oblivious spectator. The TV talk show host, Dick Cavett, himself an avid amateur magician, just like his friend Johnny Carson, was utterly astounded when Slidini performed on his program. And when Cavett asked the legendary Di Vernon if any magician out there could still fool him, the sleight-of-hand master reflexively answered, "Slidini." The great Tony Slidini performed all kinds of magic, but he is best known for what the public calls sleight-of-hand, or close-up magic. Close-up typically uses the simplest and most familiar of props, the metaphors of mundane reality itself, to disrupt the status quo of our perceptions. At its best, sleight of hand is based on the intimate bond a master close-up artist creates with an audience, whose members collaborate in the performance even as the magician subtly directs them throughout. If David Copperfield practices magic on the level of a great choral symphony, the likes of Tony Slidini and the legendary Di Vernon performed string quartets, the chamber music of the mind. By getting inside heads, they guided their audiences to think different. This phrase, think different, is, of course, associated with the late Steve Jobs, who, along with the brilliant TBWA/Chiat Day and Lee Clow and his team, ultimately worked on and approved it for a 1997 ad campaign featuring a montage of such figures as Albert Einstein, Bob Dylan, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lennon and Yoko Ono, Buckminster Fuller, Thomas Edison, Muhammad Ali, Ted Turner, Maria Callas, Mohandas Gandhi, Amelia Earhart, Alfred Hitchcock, Martha Graham, Jim Henson, Frank Lloyd Wright, and Pablo Picasso. The voiceover narrator, originally Jobs himself, but actor Richard Dreyfuss in the version that finally aired, identified them as the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. They change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. The campaign was brilliant, but the two-word phrase was genius. Like close-up magic, it depends on the most intimate of details. Casual critics carp that think different is bad English. Think is a verb, which of course calls for an adverb, differently, and not the adjective Jobs supported and approved. What they miss is the magic of the exhortation. Jobs is not telling his audience to think differently, but to think different. He is redirecting them from a mere thought process to an act of conjuring. Different, in his two-word sentence, is not the adjective it is supposed to be, but the noun Jobs wants it to be. He is proposing to his audience that they use their brains to conjure up, like a magician pulling a rabbit from a silk-top hat, different. A new reality. A new reality on a par with what Einstein created, or Picasso, or Maria Callas. What is more, Steve Jobs just happens to be in the business of creating tools that empower people to think different. In the case of the Mac, different was the ability to manipulate a graphical reality directly and viscerally, using the physical motions of hand on mouse, finger on button.